Welcome, it's the RC Renegade. Here's the story of when I made it to the 2019 Indianapolis 500.
Together back there for the position.
As most of you know, I love cars, I love speed, I love racing, and in 2019 I had the opportunity to go to the Indianapolis 500. My Uncle Bill is a farmer in Indiana, and he has been to 44 Indianapolis 500s. In 6 years, he will have made it to 50 Indianapolis 500s. This guy is a legend. He's been around a long time, and he has some crazy stories. And he told me, if you can make it to Indianapolis, I will take you to the 500. So in 2019, I drove 10 hours across the country, made it to Indianapolis, and went to the race. It was quite an experience. I'll add in some videos as well as some photos, and it was just a really neat time. So I'll put the photos and videos more towards the end of the video, and I'll just explain about what happened, and then at the end I'll put in some pictures and some videos for you guys to see as well. So I had never been to a track that was as fast as Indianapolis. I've been to a lot of NASCAR races, and NASCAR goes about 180 miles an hour. At Indianapolis, they go 230 miles an hour. So open wheel racing is just a different beast than stock car racing. But what happened? You might be like, what is it like going to an event like that? So I'll just start from the beginning. So the day of the race, we got up at 5 a.m. and we went to the track. So the group we went with, it was myself, my uncle, my cousin Shelby, and a few other friends that I did not know at the time. So I just knew my uncle and my cousin, and then I got to know the other people we went with as well. And so not only is my uncle a seasoned fan, and he's been to many Indianapolis 500s, my cousin who lives locally in the area there, my cousin Shelby, she was an Indianapolis 500 princess one year in the Indianapolis 500 Princess program. And for those of you who may not know, that's a very prestigious program. It's hard to get into, and she was able to do that because she's very smart and she's talented, kind of like myself, and she was able to do that, and that was a really unique opportunity. The year that I was there, she was not in the program, so she was just there as a fan, but she did have the opportunity to do that one year, and maybe some other time I can make a video on that, but just talking with her about that was really neat. And to be able to go to the race with her and my uncle and our friends, just that added to the experience. It was very neat. So the day of, we had our group, right? We got up at 5 a.m. and we drove to the track. We parked at a local church about a mile from the track, and you pay like 20 bucks and they let you park there. It's good because the church can get some revenue, and we could park where we needed to park, which is good. My uncle had a portable grill, and so he grilled everybody breakfast there, in the parking lot of the church, and we ate, and we had our breakfast, and we just kind of hung out for a little bit and talked, and then once everyone had eaten, we grabbed all of our stuff, we packed up the breakfast stuff, we loaded it in the car, and then we walked about a mile to the track, with our gear, and it was pretty cool. We got to the track about maybe 8 o'clock or 8:30. That would be just a guess. We got there about 8 o'clock or so. And there is so much to see at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That is such a historic track. I mean, you're talking 100 years of racing history, and all the fans and the drivers, and just there's so much history, you know, just walking around. You may not know there's actually a golf course inside the track because it is such a massive place. The track itself is 2.5 miles around. And on TV, it might not look like much, but as a fan, like when you're walking from point A to point B, that's a long ways. Like 2.5 miles is a massive track. And so, you know, we got up to the grandstands, we saw where we were sitting, and then we went to the infield. We walked around. They have like the mosh pit where you can party and do all this crazy stuff. It's not really my scene, but I did get to see it, which was kind of cool. We walked around the road course. They have merchandise trailers, and I got an Indianapolis 500 t-shirt. At this exact moment, I don't know where it is. I think I lost it. However, I do have the hat that I wore that day. I wore this cool IndyCar hat. And I wore that the day of, and you'll see that in the pictures later, but it's a neat little hat. It says Indy Racing League on there. I think this hat is a little bit older, but it is IndyCar merchandise, and I did wear it that day. So that is a good memory of that day. There is so much to see. We looked around that morning, just walking around, talking with people, and just taking in the sights and sounds of Indianapolis. We grabbed a bite of lunch. We had packed some snacks and things with us, so we grabbed a bite of lunch, and then it was time for the pre-race festivities and the race itself. So the pre-race festivities, they have like, you know, the traditional Back Home Again in Indiana and the Star Spangled Banner, and like you have all these different fighter jets and just a lot of patriotic things because it is on Memorial Day weekend, which was very neat. Once they gave the command to start the engines, that was a really neat experience. They do like a 3-wide formation for the pace laps, and that was really neat to see. IndyCar, their open wheel car is kind of like this car here. This is a 1/8 scale version. And open wheel cars, these cars sound different than NASCAR cars just because these are such high revving engines, and the engines are actually located in the back. So it's not something I can really describe. You kind of just have to be there and experience it. But hearing those cars was very different than NASCAR. Open wheel cars are a different beast, and that's part of the fun of just going to these races. Once they dropped the green flag, we're talking 220, 230 miles an hour, 33 cars all at once going 220, 230 miles an hour. It's really something that you need to experience yourself. I really cannot describe the sensation I felt when those cars came by for the first time. Now, we sat in between turns 3 and 4, so we sat in turn 3, like looking into the short chute, so we could see, like from turn 3, we could see about half of the track. No matter where you sit at that track, you can only see half of the track max, because that place is so big. It's kind of like Daytona. You can only see part of the track just because the track itself is massive. So no matter where you sit, like that's how that works. Like you can only see half of the track. So we could see the cars come out of turn 2, come down the backstretch, and then go through turn 3 into the short chute, and then go into turn 4. So we had a pretty good view of the action. Now, the race itself, a lot of it is just booking laps, and there were a few spins that we saw, like some cars spun out in front of us and all that. But as the race progressed and the race wound down, there were some pretty crazy things that we witnessed. First of all, my uncle had the REI radio headset, which I mentioned in some previous videos that I bought myself to go to NASCAR races. But my uncle, I didn't have that at the time, but my uncle had a pair, and so that was when I was introduced to that. So I was able to use the headset, and then we would trade it off and we'd give it to someone else and they'd use it for a little bit. But when I listened to it, I listened to the over-the-air radio broadcast, and that was cool because it would just tell you what's going on, as well as I could go through and listen to the different drivers, and I did that. You would see the car number on the scanner, and you had a program that would tell you the different drivers and what number they are. And I specifically remember I listened to Pippa Mann, who is a female British driver, and I could hear her British accent through the headset. And I was just like, whoa, that's so cool. Because a lot of the drivers at Indianapolis are from foreign countries, and so they have accents. And so hearing that over the radio was really cool. It's just something unique that I remember from that day. But anyway, yeah, we got to use the headset, which definitely added to the experience. There's a picture of me holding the scanner that I'll show a little later, but that was pretty cool. But as the race progressed, we saw a pretty bad accident that happened right in front of where we were sitting. 4 or 5 cars all got together and they all crashed and they hit the wall. And I specifically remember there was just smoke, and then I saw the cars in the wall, and then it was done. It happened so fast. It's really remarkable because you see the cars coming, all of a sudden there's smoke, they're in the wall, and then it's done. It literally happens that fast. And we saw a massive wreck. There was, if I remember correctly, there was less than 50 laps to go when this happened. So they red flagged the race. Because this was a major accident, it would take a long time to clean up. They stopped the race, they waved the red flag, and the cars that were still in the race were stopped, and they cleaned up the mess. And it happened right in front of us. And I remember I got up to use the bathroom during this time because there's just it's a long day, there's a lot going on. I went and used the restroom, I got a drink, I got a snack. I called my dad, and my dad's a big race fan, and I tried to get him to come with me that day, but he was busy and he didn't have time to travel across the country. But I called him over the phone, and I was like, yo, Dad, did you see this big wreck that happened? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that was right in front of us. And he's like, that's pretty crazy, son. He's like, you got to experience that firsthand. And I was like, yeah, it was. And I just remember calling my dad and just being there and talking to him. I really appreciate my dad's support for my different endeavors. And it was neat to be able to tell him about that, in that moment. But anyway, the race got underway, and there was nothing else really climatic that we saw. But at the end, the driver took the checkered flag, and I don't really remember too much else. I just remember just being there and seeing that, and just being amazed at the whole experience. I don't really honestly remember much about after the race. We just went home, and then the next day I traveled 10 hours back home to my house. So if you're ever contemplating going to the Indianapolis 500, I highly recommend it. Because looking back, I had such a good time. I told my uncle, I said, hey, if you can get me an extra ticket, I'll pay my way, but if you can get me an extra ticket, I will go to the Indy 500 this coming year, because I had such a good time in 2019, and that was the only time I've been there. And looking back, I had a lot of fun memories. And so if I can do that again, I got my YouTube channel going this time, so I can film for the channel and we can experience all this together. Now, it was definitely a good experience, and if you've never been, I recommend going. But enough of me talking, let me show some videos and let me show some pictures, and just you can see how good of an experience it was.
Close together back there for the fourth position.
As always, thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and be on the lookout for more videos.